Hi guys. So first things first, I'm experimenting with a new mic. I got this little guy off of Walmart, so let me know if that works, if it sounds any better. I know my last couple videos haven't been the best quality, but I'm hoping to change that. I get asked a lot about like crazy client stories and like not necessarily if the client is crazy, but like what's the wildest thing that's ever happened at the shop and stuff like that. I don't have a lot yet because I am fairly new. This will be my 2-year anniversary being licensed in May, which I'm really excited about. But some things have happened that I find a little wild or odd. So here's, let's say, the top 5 craziest things that have ever happened at the shop. So I'd maybe been tattooing about 3-4 months licensed when this woman came into my first shop. She had a tattoo that was about 20 years old, I would say, and it wasn't the best quality, and she wanted it like adjusted. She wanted things touched up. So her boyfriend paid me to kind of go into it and make it look a little bit better. Sometime in the conversation, I like talking to my clients to make sure that we're vibing, we're having a good time, and it can help as well with pain and stuff. So if you kind of are having a conversation, it can distract clients a little bit. So I like to talk to my clients. I had spoken to her for maybe 20 minutes and she was asking if I was seeing anybody. And I mentioned that I had gone on a date with this girl and didn't work out. And so I was still back on Tinder or whatever. And she sort of paused and she goes, "Oh, so you're gay?" And I was like, oh no. Like usually when people pause, that's not a good sign. And so I just didn't want any issues. So I was just like, oh yeah, like it's not a big deal. It's whatever. And then pretty much immediately after that, she was like, oh, okay. And we start to get back into conversation. And I was like, oh, maybe she was just surprised. Like, I think I look pretty gay, but, not everybody has that kind of experience. So I was like, all right, like she was just surprised, whatever. Fast forward, this, I want to say 55-year-old woman starts going, oh, it really hurts. Like, oh, I really need something to squeeze. And I was like, oh, well, I can make you a little paper towel ball to squeeze or something like that. And she goes, no, it's okay. So we keep going and I'm standing up and she is laying flat on the table on her back. And so my legs are like right next to, I guess, not even right next to, but like between her hips and her arms. So she's like, oh God, I just really have to have something to squeeze. And so she wraps her arm around the trunk of my thigh essentially and starts squeezing my thigh. And I'm like, I've never had that happen before. Like I thought if I got I guess it's sexual harassment. Like I thought if I got sexually harassed by a client, it would be a male client. And I've had that verbally happen, but I've never had it like anyone touch me before this point. So I was really taken aback. And I kind of looked at her boyfriend, and her boyfriend just was like, he wasn't paying attention. He just wasn't really, he didn't care. And I was like, money's money. And like, I don't know. It was just a weird experience. So I was like, okay, like I didn't know what to do. Like I had rehearsed what I would do if I was harassed by a male client, but I'd never had that happen to me before. So I just kind of didn't acknowledge it, and I finished tattooing her, and she wanted to come in again for a touch-up, and I was just like, oh, you should go to this person's awesome, and like told them I would pay for them to do it instead. But weirdly enough, that is not the only time an older woman has found out I was gay and then immediately started hitting on me. So that was, I guess, the first kind of wild thing that's ever happened to me at the shop. Another time I had a girl come in, I'd say she's about 19, maybe 20, like still very young, and she had other tattoos. They were mostly pretty simple, like line art, stars, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, like I get your vibe, I get what you want done. And she had a reference image of a line art moon and some stars. And I was like this big. I'm like, that's gonna take me 5 minutes, maybe 10. Like it'll take longer to set up than it will to actually do the tattoo, right? So anyway, the minute I put my needle to her arm, she has other tattoos. I'm thinking she can sit for a tattoo. She starts wailing like I'm like stabbing her in the stomach. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, is something wrong? Are you, like, I even asked, like, sometimes if you're on your period, that can, like, exacerbate and, like, make you extra sensitive. Like that. And I was like, oh gosh, like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, let's troubleshoot. And, you know, there's any number of things that can cause a tattoo to be a little bit more painful. So, like, if you're sitting uncomfortably, sometimes if you're on your period, if you are a assigned female at birth, that can cause a lot of issues. It can make you more sensitive. So I was thinking something like that, right? Like, clearly there's something else going on here. But I asked, you know, did you take anything? She didn't seem intoxicated. She's like, no, like, I'm just sensitive. I was like, oh, okay. Well, you know, this tattoo's gonna take 5 minutes, so let's take a deep breath. Like, let's center yourself. It ended up taking more like 30 because I couldn't get her to stop screaming. So that was an interesting experience. And then I always use adhesive bandages on my clients. They're see-through and they go on like a sticker and they stay on for anywhere from 5 to 7 days. And so sometimes, you know, when you put it on, like, you're putting it on a circular kind of soft human body part. You're not putting it on something flat, right? So it's kind of hard to put it on super flat all the time and just like constantly nail that. And as long as it's covering the tattoo and it's doing what it's supposed to, like having some wrinkles or air bubbles in the bandage won't bother the tattoo, and they don't usually bother the client. But the minute I put the bandage on, there was like a little wrinkle on the side and she started wailing again, like I was murdering her. And she's like, I have OCD and I can't deal with that. And so I had to take the bandage off so I could put a new one on, and was wailing because I pulled the bandage off. So, you know, I had seen other artists have that kind of screaming client interaction before and had sort of hoped beyond hope that I wouldn't have to experience that. And, you know, got my first one out of the way. I like to think I handled it pretty well, but it was very jarring. I guess the third craziest thing would be the time I had a client come in and I had never met them before, and they came in as a walk-in. So, you know, I'm meeting them for the first time that day. It took me about 20 minutes to like get ready and get all my stuff together. And when I brought them back, you know, I made a comment like, oh, what's this tattoo about? And they told me about the time that they had their heart broken, which is fine. What is not fine is how it then segued into sort of a personal autobiography of every time they'd had sex, every kink that they had explored, what he was missing, you know, loudly to the entire shop. So there's 6 tattoo booths. I'm in one of them. I'm between 2 others and next to 3 more on the other side of a partition. But they are not soundproofed. And when you speak loudly enough in a relatively quiet tattoo studio, everybody can hear what you're saying. So I won't go further into that or into specifics because I respect my clients' privacy. And sometimes I wish that my clients would respect their own privacy a little bit more. But I digress. It was an interesting experience, and I will forever remember her and her incredible sex life. This one isn't so much crazy as it is, I guess, a funny anecdote. But the first time I'd ever been concerned about a client passing out would be at my first shop. I'd been tattooing maybe 4 months at this point, 5 months. And she had come in for her first tattoo. It was a little butterfly on her arm. She was very nervous. So I sat with her, and during the consults, I kind of talked to her about like what you can expect from a tattoo, especially a first one, what you can do to, like, you know, if you're nervous, I recommend eating before the tattoo. Make sure you have something in your stomach so the adrenaline doesn't make you dizzy or nauseous. And ideally, you want to prevent yourself from fainting, right? Like, that's kind of worst case scenario, is you have a medical event while I'm tattooing you. So she has anxiety. You know, we talk about all the ways that we can sort of mitigate that risk. And we start, and she goes, oh, that's not so bad. And I was like, yeah. So we're like going on, we're doing fine. And we were having a conversation up to a specific point, and then she kind of goes quiet, and I was like, everything all right? And she just goes, as conversationally and casually as you please. She goes, oh yeah, I'm just about to pass out. And I was like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. So we stopped and got her some juice and a little ice pack, and she was right as rain, and we were able to finish the tattoo, no problems. But I was always really taken aback by how, you know, anxiety and shock can kind of put you in this like autopilot mode. It was just really jarring that something so serious was just like so casual, especially after she was so concerned about it. I was like, wow, okay. So that's always something that I take forward with me, and I always make sure to check on my clients and make sure that they're, you know, comfortable, they're safe, they're feeling all right. Mostly to my clients' annoyance at this point. I apologize if you're one of my clients and you're watching this. I check in 4 or 5 times a tattoo probably, but that just really shook me up, and I wanted to make sure everybody's okay and on the right page. Save this one for last. This is probably the craziest thing that has ever happened to me in the studio. So I had a client come in as a walk-in, and he said he was doing some research on the shops and like artists in the area, and he just wanted to talk to me about maybe getting a tattoo. And I was like, fine, like I love talking tattoos. I can talk tattoos all day. So we sit down and he explains that this is a memorial tattoo, and he tells me what he wants. And I give him information on what he should be looking for. I pull out my iPad and kind of show him a couple things of like, you know, this is what you could do. We could do this. Here's some other artists in the area that I think would also be a good fit for this, that you can like kind of network a little and really do your research. And the entire time he was making kind of intense eye contact with me. I don't like eye contact. I'm very bad at that. So, especially with men, it's something that I'm not used to. So I'm doing my best, but I'm a little taken aback by the amount of eye contact. But on the other hand, I understand that that's not my strong suit. So I might just be feeling uncomfortable because, you know, I don't like eye contact. So he basically leaves the shop, and one of my counter girls comes up to me and goes, hey, I just thought you should be aware, before he asked to talk to anybody in the shop, before he asked to talk to you, he was staring at your portfolio book and just at the cover for the entire time. And I was like, oh, that's strange. And I wasn't really picking up what she was putting down, but she was like, you know, it's a picture of you on the cover. And I was like, got it. Okay, so maybe he thinks I'm cute. Like, that's fine. I've dealt with that before. It's normal. So I don't really think anything of it. And then he comes back in, I would say about an hour later, and goes, yeah, of all the artists that I've spoken to, you are the best fit. And I like this. I like what you did here. I like that you showed me the design. Like, I feel comfortable that you're going to do a good job. And I was like, thank you. Like that kind of compliment means the world to me. And I really appreciate my clients who put that kind of trust in me. And I don't ever want to abuse or make that trust lessen, if that makes sense. So we set up an appointment, and right as he's getting ready to leave, I'm like, oh, my counter girl, like, I appreciate that she's looking out for me. All the girls in the shop look out for each other, and I love that vibe. But I was like, maybe she was just a little bit too hawk-eyed in this specific instance. The minute I go to shake his hand and he goes to walk out the door, he goes, yeah, and I'd love to buy you lunch the day of. I was like, oh, no, that's okay. I don't accept gifts from clients as a rule. I just think it kind of muddles the lines of professionalism, and I like to be on the same page with my clients. It's an important part of establishing trust, in my opinion. So I was like, no, thank you. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, let me know if you change your mind. I said, perfect. And I was like, all right. That's the first moment I really started to get any sort of like concern. So he comes in the next week. We show him the tattoo. He's like talking to me about the design pretty much, and was like, you know, I thought that weirdness was maybe just my anxiety. But we get started on the tattoo. I'm getting ready to stencil him, and he's like, are you sure I can't buy you coffee? Can't buy you lunch? I messaged you on Instagram and you didn't respond, and I hadn't seen that. So I was a little like, oh, okay. No, thank you. I'm okay. Like, I've already eaten today. And I'm like, he wanted it right here. So I was like, can you lift up your shirt or take off your he was wearing a long sleeve shirt. It's like, can you take your long sleeve shirt off so we can get you stenciled? And he goes, oh, well, and he looks around like all discreetly. And then he goes, I conceal carry and I have my weapon on me. Is that all right? Now, I'm not going to get into politics, but, I don't feel comfortable touching someone's body if they have a concealed gun on them. I am not trained in firearm safety. I am not comfortable with the concept that I could bump something and, have something happen. So I was like, oh, okay, well, if you're able to move that and put it somewhere else, if you're able to put it in your car, like if you're able to hide it underneath your shirt on the little table where I ask people to put their stuff, like that's awesome. That is not what he did. He decided to wrap the gun in his shirt and he decided to hold it for the duration of the tattoo. So not only am I tattooing a man who is not really respecting my no and is clearly hitting on me, but I'm tattooing a man who's hitting on me while holding a gun. So we finished the tattoo. I'm like, okay, let this guy pay, let him get out of here. I leave after the tattoo because, I'm not tattooing anyone else that day. And I get a frantic text about an hour later from my counter girl. Violet, he's back and he's asking for you and he wants to make you an origami thing and he wants to make you something. Like, she's like, he came back asking if he could, do this and that for you. And I was like, no, you should contact her directly. Already, I'm really freaked out because I've already explained to him I don't accept gifts from clients. I'm okay. And with the gun stuff, I was just like, oh my God. So finally, he messages me like 30 minutes later. Hey, I had a wonderful time today. Like, we went on a date. We didn't go on a date. Like, you're paying me to tattoo you. And he goes, I had a wonderful time today. I love the tattoo. So he asked if he could make me something. And I had to be very respectful, but I was like, no, thank you. Like, please don't do that. I'm totally good. Like, your good tattoo is all the thanks I need. So thankfully I haven't heard from him again. But yeah, I would say that was probably the wildest story thus far. I know that there will be more crazy stories as I go through my tattoo career. What was the craziest thing that's ever happened to you during a tattoo? Let me know in the comments. All right, thanks. Bye.